Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Lee Brock, and I'm one of the co-artistic directors of the Barrow Group. And I welcome you all here this afternoon for our artist conversation with Lanre Olabisi. We're so excited that he is with us here today. Lanre is an amazing award-winning writer and director, filmmaker, I'm going to say producer, all of it. So we are so excited that he's having this artist conversation with us this afternoon. And for viewing, it would be great if maybe people could turn their cameras off. And if you have questions for Lanre, you can certainly just put them in the chat, and I will ask these questions. And for those of you who don't know who the Barrow Group is a nonprofit theater company and training center. We're located in New York City, and we've been around doing this for about 36 years. And we produce shows, we develop work, and we also have a training program for teaching acting and directing and writing. So great. So Lanre, welcome. And first of all, I just wanted to kind of throw out that question, like what's keeping you inspired these days, Lanre?
That's such a good question. I think it's, like I've just always been interested in making new things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like once I finish one idea, I just I start working on another one. And I've been lucky in the past, probably in the past year, my reps have kind of been throwing me stuff to pitch on, like things that people want to have adapted. I've been pitching on it. So that's kind of been getting me inspired, because there's always a time crunch and they're like, okay, they want this project adapted. And usually when I get the project, I'll read it, and there are both of the ones that I got, I didn't actually particularly like very much when I got them. And they're very supportive in saying, make it the thing that you would love to make. Right. So on both of them, I make tremendous changes. I'm about to hear back on whether or not I got one, probably this week or the next week. Another one I didn't end up getting, because I do change it so much that it becomes almost unrecognizable to what it had originally started as.
Okay.
But again, it's like, make it something that you would be proud of, make it something that you would want to work on. So
right.
Then I change it to adjust those criteria, which causes a lot of things to shift.
Right. That's fantastic. And so you recently, you just worked on a production called The Rookie for
Yes.
ABC. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a police procedural. It stars Nathan Fillion. It shows ABC 10 p.m. Sunday nights. But it was, I was out there, I had shadowed 2 episodes beforehand, so I really got to know. It was actually my first time directing on television.
Okay.
I come from a indie film background, so
Right.
it was quite different, right, in a lot of senses. So yeah, I shadowed the 2 episodes and I moved right into directing, and it was pretty smooth, pretty painless, very similar and different in a lot of ways.
So just even within that, like, and I'm so excited to talk about your feature films that you've done. So what did you find that was different, directing on television as opposed to, on the feature films?
Okay, so as an independent film director, I was responsible for everything, really.
Right.
Everything landed on my shoulders. So it felt a lot more stressful when I was directing and producing essentially my own films, right? In this, it was the first time that I had ever been in a situation where I only had to concentrate on the creative and only had to concentrate on the directing.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, I was like, oh my gosh, this is easy. I don't have to think about all this other stuff, right? If we lose a location, hey, not my problem. Somebody else go deal with it.
Right.
If so in that way, it was very freeing insofar as just being able to concentrate on directing creatively, right? The other thing that's very different that people will tell, obviously TV is more of a writer's medium, right? So the director doesn't have as much power, let's say, as on a feature film. It's not my vision, so it's the showrunner's vision. So what I have to be of service to the showrunner and what the showrunner wants, right? So if all of a sudden I say, okay, I want everything to have really wide angle lenses, and if that's not the language of the show, well, that's just not going to happen. Right. So in TV, everything feels much more collaborative, let's say, whereas in film, it's kind of like you want to fulfill the director's vision. So while you might have some sort of disagreements along the way, ultimately it's really how the director envisions things. Whereas on TV, it's like the showrunner, right?
Yeah.
So there were ideas that I had that, like there were times where I was kind of overruled by people of other positions that would never have been able to overrule me on a film set, just because, like, let's say the production designer has been with the show for 4 years.
Right.
They know much more about the show than I do, that I ever would be able to as a guest director, right? And they know the characters. They understand it at a level that a guest director just wouldn't be able to. Same with the actors, right? The actors understand their characters much better than a guest director would. So while a guest director can come in, they can have their ideas, they can make suggestions and changes, ultimately they're not going to know the show as well as the people who've been on it every single day for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Great. And so, I see that beautiful poster, and behind you there and somewhere in the middle, but your first feature was August the 1st. I think that right, August the 1st. Oh, there it is. Show posters, look at that. And that's kind of a family drama, this that you did like in 2007. So what was your inspiration and you wrote that and directed it and produced it, like, what he does everything, well, so beautifully. So, and what was your inspiration to get this film up?
Well, for that one, I knew that I wanted to do a feature film. And and I had a writing partner at the time, and this is how we brainstormed it. It was basically like, I have no resources, you have no resources. What resources do we have? Okay, well, we could shoot a film in my mom's house.
Right.
And it was the house that I grew up in. It was a house in New Jersey, and and we said, okay, so let's shoot a film around the house. Okay, then we started brainstorming what can you do all over the course of one day, because we wanted to make it in one day. Okay, a party. What kind of party? A graduation party. Okay, what's good? What will have a lot of conflict, a lot of drama? Okay, let's make it a family drama. And that's kind of how it kind of happened, and how we started just getting ideas on creating, a low budget indie family drama.
Yeah, and so fabulous. Just that whole thing. I know that we've talked about before. It's like creative people have to be creative, and then you just have to just do it, like the Nike ad. Just kind of what kind of movie that you want to put out, and just, okay, so it's the location, your mom's house. We don't have any money. Let's just do it in one day and just get it made. That's just fantastic. And so then your second one, and somewhere in the middle, you did that in 2015, right?
Yes.
And that kind of, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that one, yeah, that came out in 2015. We shot it in 2013, and that really started off as a what were we doing? We started improving. So I met with a couple actor friends of mine, and what we were trying to do is we were trying to create a story based off of a bunch of improvisations that we had done over the course of, how long was it? Over the course of like 6 months, I think. We did a bunch of different improvs, and then I eventually wrote a script based off the improvs that we had done, and then from there we shot we did a Kickstarter, actually. We raised $100,000 for that, which gave us our production budget. And then after that, we got like an angel investor who came in for the other $100,000 that gave us our finishing funds.
That is so fabulous. That is so fabulous. And I love, I said, oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
1 second.
Yep. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Lee. I'm not sure.
Okay, you can hear me, but Lanre can't. Okay. Maybe in a second. Well, we're gonna hear you talk anyway. So
I'm gonna try something else. Can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear me? Great, fantastic. Terrific. So yeah, that wonderful about writing about improv, like taking the improv from the actors. You can get, such real dialogue, which I think your dialogue in those movies are, kind of so just like people talking, which is wonderful. So you studied with the Barrow Group. So grateful that you studied with the Barrow Group, and you took some directing classes. Went 2014 and 16 and did that year-long directing class with us. So any takeaways from that directing program that kind of stuck with you? Or?
Yes, it was actually the first opportunity that so I was about to say the first opportunity that I had to direct after the classes was on The Rookie, but that's kind of a lie, because I actually I taught for 14 years actually at the New York Film Academy, and one of the things that we used to do was we would go out. I taught directing, acting for the camera, and all that stuff. So I used a lot of those techniques in my own classes with my own students, which were phenomenal. So I definitely used all of them. And one of the great things about having those classes and then being able to teach with those techniques was I constantly was getting better at it, right? Because instead of only having a few opportunities to use the techniques, I literally was able to use them every day. And then when I got on the set of The Rookie, because one of the things that it did, you guys do a great job of giving a whole bunch of tools, right? And when I was on set with The Rookie, like at first with the actors, I was very, I would try a couple of things, and one thing that I know you guys don't do it, but one thing that we all know from directing, they all say use verbs. So I said in the beginning with The Rookie, let me just use verbs. Let me try something small a little bit, and I started using verbs, and I got so much pushback from just verbs, and I was like, whoa, okay, I'm gonna have to try something else.
Love that. I love that.
So I was like, like if I had said something like, okay, can you try begging? I was doing that.
Oh, interesting. Right. Oh.
I was like, and that wasn't like only one person one time. That was like consistent. Like I would say something and it was like, yeah, I was doing that. And I'd just be like, okay, that's not going to work. I need to pull something else out of my pocket, right? And so one thing that I found that really worked really well, and I think both you and Seth do this, which was like encouraging behavior and then telling the story that you are getting from them. So that one part where you first walked up and I noticed that you were begging him there, and that was absolutely phenomenal. Keep playing in that direction because it's telling me this story, X, Y, and Z. And once I started doing that, and I would do that consistently, and I would talk to the actors after each take, I got on 4 different occasions from 4 different actors, wow, thank you so much for watching.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and my first thought was like, wait, people don't watch? What are you talking about?
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And so interesting, like you just, observed, like when you as a director are encountering resistance from an actor, like, I was gonna say, like, what do you do? But it seems like you're kind of throwing them different tools to, or different, you gotta like try some different things to kind of get what you want with, in collaboration.
Right.
Yeah, with them. That's that's great. That's wonderful. So what do you think are some of the important skills that you've learned over the years to make you the director that you are?
Some of the skill, probably patience, listening, like watching and observing, and then being, and this is actually one of, I don't know if it sounds small, but I think it's one of the a very important aspect that I definitely got from the Barrow group, which was to be able to articulate the story that you are getting. And watching it and then being able to say, okay, the story that I'm getting is X, and this is what we're going for. That's great. Or this isn't really what we're going for. Let's change it around. And I think before I might have had it in some way, but I didn't necessarily have language for it. And I think once you're able to express in language the story that you're getting from all of these things, right? It just allows you to focus on, the essence of that particular scene or the particular film, or, and most importantly, the story.
Right, absolutely. I think that is a really good thing because it takes the pressure off of the actor to feel like that they're doing it. It's like, no, what's the story that you're serving? So
Right.
as a director, it's like you're sharpening your eye to like, what is the story? So it takes that obligation off of the actor to feel like, oh, that I have to do all this other stuff. It's like, no, the story that we're
right.
Yeah, patience is a big thing, and listening to people is a really big thing. Yeah, so how do you help yourself, especially when you were on the directing your own stuff, and you were talking about all that, the pressure of being you're producing it, everyone's coming to you. So how do you help yourself when you are under great pressure? How do you help yourself?
And what exactly do you mean by help yourself?
Like tools, do you meditate at all, or do you kind of calm yourself down?
Okay.
Prioritize? Do you take like one step at a time? Do you what are some things that you do, maybe onset, offset, to help yourself?
So offset, I'm a big meditator. I've been meditating since 2008. Actually. So that's one of the things that's helped with the patience, right? And with not, because there's not always, but oftentimes there's going to be a situation in which you're going to be rattled, right? And so the more zen you can be about things, I think the better off that you're going to be. And when I'm on set, well, one of the things that I try to do is, I try to never show that I'm rattled.
Right.
Even when something bad happens, I probably, like, if somebody tells me something bad, something terrible just happened, my first reaction is always going to be, okay, perfect. How do we figure this out? So everything is just perfect, because I always know something bad is going to happen, and then what it does is like, okay, perfect, wonderful. Just let's have a smile on our face, because if I start to run around like all frazzled and all frantic, then it's really not going to help anything, and then everybody else is going to be frazzled and frantic, and then it's just going to spiral into something really, really bad.
Yeah. No, that's so true, and that is just a practice. Like in meditation, it's a practice. Being on set, it's a practice. Uh, yeah. And maybe like, who are some of your other directors that you admire that are out there?
Alfonso Cuarón, I really love his stuff. Let's see, who else? I'm gonna say the obvious, like what's his name? Stanley Kubrick.
Yep.
I've always loved him from when I was a kid. I really like Steve McQueen's stuff.
Yeah.
Let me think. Is there anybody else that Steven Soderbergh? I've appreciated a lot of the stuff that he's done in his career. Catherine Bigelow as well.
Yeah.
I really like the career trajectory that Ava DuVernay's had as well, you know. And then I like recently a lot of what Jordan Peele's been doing.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's a that's a beautiful list. And are there anything from those directors that you've kind of admired and kind of taken them and kind of put them in your own filmmaking? Like, you know, shots or specific specific shots or images.
See, it's interesting. I won't necessarily take from a specific filmmaker, so to speak, but it might be like a film or you know, like August the 1st, my first film was very inspired by the Dogma movement of, you know, Dogma 95, and in particular a film called The Celebration. Although I wouldn't say that Thomas Vinterberg is like one of my favorite filmmakers, but that film really inspired me. Yeah, kind of like it's more film specific.
Like the film. The film.
Yeah.
Specific. Yeah. So I think I read somewhere, maybe on the Barrow Group website, it's like you are committed to telling complex and layered stories that veer from conventions. So
Yes.
And what does that mean to you?
So one of the things that so for example, with Somewhere in the Middle, it's a story that's told, it's a story that's told pretty much in three different timelines. It's kind of like Rashomon-esque, if you will. And a new screenplay that I have, which is based off of a short film that I recently did called A Storybook Ending, that's also told in a very non-linear sort of way. And that's something that really intrigues me, like playing with structure, playing with time. And it's something that I've been working on for quite a few of my films.
And what
recently.
about that? Yeah, that non-linear form intrigues you. What intrigues you about that?
I think it all kind of started when I was a kid, to be honest with you. And, you know, like I'd be home, my mom would come home, and then I would realize when we would meet her friends and all that stuff, that she had this life that I didn't even know about, that I would never know about, right? And, you know, and as I grew older, I would have these experiences, my friends would have their experiences, and sometimes, well, let's just say you're in a relationship, and then somebody says, okay, it's not you, it's me, but I don't want to be with you anymore, right? And I was always wonder, but what was it really? And can you ever really know the answer? And I would always wonder what was happening when they weren't with me, right? And so Somewhere in the Middle was kind of like an exploration of that idea. Like everybody makes choices based upon the very limited perspective that they have, right? And sometimes when you start seeing the whole view of things, you're like, okay, that was the right choice based on your limited perspective, but in the grand scheme of things, you probably shouldn't have done that because of X, Y, and Z. And what Somewhere in the Middle tried to do was try to show that whole view.
Yeah, and I totally love that and agree with that. That kind of nonlinear storytelling, I think that kind of opens up your brain to experience totally different things. It breaks the pattern of our, the linear storytelling, because we get
Right.
used to that story, we get used to that, and sometimes when you're doing that, nonlinear stuff, it kind of throws your brain into a different place of even taking stuff in. Just even like your story, the storybook ending. I feel like it's kind of like a dark story, and then you've got this light music. The music, it seems like it's like contrasting, contrasting with this dark stuff. It's like, wow, I'm really seeing this dark stuff, but this music is lighter, so it actually invites you into the story even more, which is lovely and great. It's not the obvious choice. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, that part was actually a challenge for us in the beginning, because like one of my friends who had watched it, he had commented on it, mentioning that he didn't really understand in an earlier draft, he didn't understand the tone of the film. Right. And so it was very important for us to be able to set the tone early and have that light music, because initially it was kind of darker music playing in the background, so he was expecting a darker story when he saw all of those images. And then he's like, then you have a funny part happening, and it's like, am I supposed to laugh at this? It was kind of like, okay, give the audience kind of permission to see, hey, we're not taking all of this too seriously, neither should you.
Right. And it kind of throws the audience into like, should I laugh? Should I what is that? Which actually brings that audience into the story even a little bit more. Yeah.
Right.
Which is so wonderful. Terrific. So in your life, like who are some people that have influenced you as an artist, as a filmmaker? So any people in your life that if you've influenced you?
I mean, probably I would say some friends, some teachers have definitely influenced me. Then obviously some of the filmmakers that I had spoken about. And probably I'm trying to think of who's been the greatest influence. Well, I'll tell a story of a most recent influence. Who's been, how shall I say? I've known him since 2008. He's a television director right now by the name of Pete Chapman, and he directs a lot of episodic stuff. We kind of came through the film festival circuit back in 2007 together, and he started directing episodics back in, I think, 2015, 2016. So as soon as I started getting these opportunities, I would call him up and be like, okay, Pete, what should I do? And he'd always give me great advice on what I should do. And then I finally actually had the opportunity to shadow him on an episode that he did with Love Life. This was back early in like June of 2021, so relatively recently. And it was a really great experience, because every time before we would get on set, we would walk on and he would just look at me and be like, okay, how would you shoot this? What would you do? Right. And he would like really test me on everything, right, and challenge me on all the choices that I was making, right, which was actually very, very, very helpful, because it saw I was able to see where the gap was, right? Because there is that difference between television and feature films as well that I hadn't fully absorbed, right? And and there was another thing like that I had seen from him too, where I was realizing, my mind is kind of like this, and it needs to be like this. So one of the so for example, there was this one time where I was shadowing somebody else in The Rookie, and we start walking through this, this warehouse, which was supposed to be a location. And, the director like looks around and is like, okay, yeah, so can we take down that wall? And I was like, exactly. I was like, wait, you can ask that? Yeah, and the guy was like, oh yeah, if you want to. And that wouldn't even have crossed my mind,
Right, right.
just because, in indie world, it's like, okay, this is a room you got, this we're sticking with it, and we're gonna figure out a way how to shoot within these confines.
Right.
Whereas it just became about, oh no, if you want it, you can ask for it. And there were some things where I just had to realize that there might be questions that I might not even think of asking, just because for so many years, because of budget constraints, it's kind of like I work with what I have, right? And I'm creative within that, but sometimes that can be sometimes that can be a strength, but sometimes that can also be a weakness.
Yeah. That's great. That's so wonderful. Terrific. And I encourage the people that are with us today, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and we'll ask Lanre these questions if you feel like chatting, or asking some questions. Maybe I can ask you, what was one of your biggest challenges in directing, or as an artist? What did you find one of your biggest?
I think the biggest challenges for me have been trying to get projects off the ground.
Right.
And that's always, you have to have a certain amount of patience, because I think any artist, is going to figure that out, or going to feel that at some point. It's like, you have your projects, and all you need is the money.
Yeah, right.
And if you had the money, then you'd be able to make them. And so one of the things that I've always tried to do is write to the resources that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So August the 1st, I was writing to the resources that I had, which was your mom's house. Yeah. My mom's house. Okay. And then we're going to have to figure out the money to actually make that film, but it's going to be within the reach. Right. Somewhere in the middle was the same sort of thing. I figured, I was like, I could probably raise $100,000. So let me write within that, and so those have been probably the biggest challenges. Now I'm finally getting an opportunity to write and to develop stories where my imagination could really go wild. We'll see what happens with those things. But I do think there's also a certain amount of fun in writing to the confines that you find yourself in.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you're so good at all of these different disciplines, just the writing and the directing and the kind of the raising the money to get these your films up, and the teaching. So is there any specific discipline that you are that you gravitate to more?
I don't think so.
You love it all. Yeah.
It's kind of like, I've always felt like, because when I was teaching, it was screenwriting, directing, and acting for the camera. And I actually started just as a screenwriting teacher, and I'd done that for a couple of years, and I was so bored because I was saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. And then, and it was the same subjects. And then I started teaching the acting for the camera, and I loved being able to bounce between both of them, because I found both of them interesting. And once I started doing too much of one, I was able to do the other. And then once directing was involved, then it was always changing for me. So when I'm writing, right, when I'm writing a story, once I'm kind of sick of it, right, and it's ready to move to the next phase, then I can start directing it, and then it starts becoming fun again and interesting again as you see it kind of change and transform before your eyes. And then once I'm bored of that and sick of that, then we move on to the editing phase, and then it transforms again. And so I think I always like changing and having that new thing come.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Oh, so a question. So a question from the audience. Would you suggest actors to take directing classes to better understand being a director on a set?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like I'm a director and I've taken a bunch of acting classes, right? And just to better understand actors on a set, and it's remarkable to see how many directors, in my opinion, just don't understand acting, don't understand the craft of acting, and
Yeah.
don't even seem that interested in understanding it. And you know, and I think it they don't have they don't it takes them away from the compassion that I think they should have for an actor, especially when you're asking them to do something really, really difficult and really, really
Yeah.
challenging, right? And if you've been through that, if you see what it's like, you know what they need. So, you know, and there have been times where I've been on a set and I'm like, I think this is what the actor needs, but the director doesn't know to give that to the actor, and they just get frustrated at the actor because
Right.
they're not getting what the director's not getting what they wanted, but the
Right.
director's also not putting the actor in a position where they can give them what they want.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And it's that communication between director and actor. And what would you, any advice that you would give to actors to help them relax on a set? You know, because actors get nervous before they go on even, television. That whole machine is kind of so fast and furious, but also just even working with you, them wanting to please the director. But any tools that you can throw out to actors when they kind of, get to the set, what would you throw out to them?
That is I mean, maybe that's an amazing question. Maybe I don't know, maybe meditation, or because that's also a thing. Um, that's also a thing where I think it's important for directors to know that, because I think a lot of them are oblivious to the fact that actors are nervous sometimes,
Yeah.
right? And they're completely oblivious to the fact that maybe they need a second, maybe they need to, and it's just like, okay, get in there, okay, in action, right?
Right.
And it's like, what'd you do? Whoa,
Yeah.
I need,
Right.
come on, let me think for a second here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not going to get that, right? And if that's something that you need, it's going to be something, to calm down, to center yourself. You might have to bake that in for yourself to, like maybe be upfront and say, hey, could I have 5 minutes? Could I have, this amount of time? Most of the time, most directors will be very accommodating if they can.
Oh, if they can. It's like also it's on those sets, as you kind of saw in The Rookie, though, too, they're very fast and furious.
Oh yeah.
So there's time is money on those sets. And so I think the directors are having to do such an efficient job. And so they don't really have time for an actor to like go, oh, I need, my 5 minutes. Well, it's like, okay, you've got to like.
Especially if you're like a guest star. If you and it's like they want you to get it in 2-3 takes tops. And if you don't have it in 2-3 takes, we got to move on, because you got to make your day. And there's a lot of pressure on that schedule.
And it's a time thing. So sometimes actors like go on there, and I'm like going, okay, just learn your lines the best you possibly can. Try to relax yourself. Anything that you can, do to kind of make it easy for you. But like just even meditation is all good. So I'm loving this discussion. Does Lanre storyboard? This is an excellent question. Do you storyboard in your pre-production process, or you just work it out once you're on the set? That's an excellent question, Eric. That's an excellent question.
It depends what I'm doing. If it is an action sequence, I'm going to storyboard it. Not all directors do. I personally do. I have to pre-visualize it so that especially when you're on set, I don't want to get on set and be like, did we get that shot? Oh wait, I don't know if we got that shot. Maybe we get it. Because the other thing that you have to be aware of is, on television especially, and you're working with 3 cameras.
Right.
you know, like, you can't watch 3 cameras at once. It's
Right.
impossible. And if you're only doing 2 takes, right, you can hope you have something, but if you have the storyboard, then you could just be, you have so many people watching the cameras and you can be like, okay, did we get this? Did we get this? Did we get this? Perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
we can move on. And I'm going to always be, you know, going forward, I'm probably going to be working with 2 cameras at a time too. And so when you're doing action pieces, those type of set pieces that are complex, I personally would always storyboard or at least do some sort of pre-visualization of it.
Right.
But if I'm just doing a sit down 2-banger scene with people at a dinner table, I don't need to storyboard that. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, well, just in terms of that storyboarding process, does it help you well, kind of streamline the film so that you can kind of plan it out if it's like even like more locations or more shots, or like you said, you visualize it. So if you're visualizing it, is that the most economic thing, like for your team that you're with?
Yeah, because then everybody can be on the same page. Then the director of photography can see exactly what you want, and you can just, it's a relatively cheap way to pre-visualize everything.
Yeah. That's good. That was great. And a question from Ethan. So
And another thing, I do a lot of storyboard, shot list. What's the other thing called? Floor plans. I'll floor plan everything out.
and what do you mean by that?
So a floor plan is basically an overhead of your entire of a particular scene, so where the cameras are going to go. And I am actually, I'm going to see if I can pull one up for you guys to look at, but for some reason I am not logged in. Give me 1 second and I'll see if I can pull up what I had from the rookie. And open scene. Yep, here. Boom. So I will share screen and we will see it.
Oh,
If I
good.
can share screen. Okay,
Oh, good.
so right here. Boom. And just tell me if you can see this.
Okay. Oh yeah, we can see that. Wow.
Yeah. So if you, this is just very basic, but if you look at the opening shot of the rookie, right? These are basically the shots, and this is our main character Nolan. This is the character Leo, right? And we just have all of our shots going here.
Wow.
Right? And so this is just a floor plan of everything that is
I've never
happening
seen
within a
those.
particular.
Wow. That's great. That is great. That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. I've never seen, one of those floor plans of something. Didn't even know that they did that. That's amazing. Terrific. So I have another question from Ethan. So what was your relationships with acting, directing, and writing before teaching at New York Film Academy?
What was my relationships with the acting, directing, and writing?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of like, did you do it all, or he does do it all. He's like,
Okay.
a superhero.
So I'll say, so I started, so I directed my first feature in 2005 is when we shot the film. I started teaching in 2008. The film came out in 2007, and then it was bought and stuff like that. So acting, I took my first acting class. I took that at Esper Studios, and then that was in 2006, I want to say. I believe that was in 2006 or 2007. And right after that, then that's when I started teaching at the New York Film Academy. That's when I was teaching screenwriting. That's when I started as a screenwriting teacher.
Yeah. And that's so funny. I think, Ethan says, oh no, there are lots of like, yeah, like how did you fall into doing it all? And he goes laugh out loud. So falling into doing it all, it's like, I think, you're a creative person. You are so proactive about creating your own projects, getting it out there. How did you fall into doing it all? You just kind of did
Well,
it.
it really came from necessity, to be honest with you. So
Uh-huh.
one of the things that, like, I know how to edit too, and I taught
Oh,
editing as well, right? So
of course you do.
so
Of course you do.
but it all kind of comes out of necessity, right? Because if I wanted to direct something, I didn't I didn't think, and maybe whether or not it's true or not, I don't know, but I didn't think I was going to be getting people to give me scripts that I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I was like, okay, so I have to write. If I want to direct, I'm going to have to write. So that's part of the reason why I started writing, right? Part of the reason why I started editing is because I didn't know how to edit for a while. And I was all, since I had no money at the time, I would have to go to other people who were willing to do it for free, right?
Mhm.
But if they're going to do it for free, then they're going to do it on their own time, which they don't care about what your time frame is. So I was like, I don't like feeling like I'm in this position where I have to wait forever to get the thing done. So I'm just going to learn how to do it myself,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and so that's kind of the impetus that started
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Like, necessity. Absolutely. Absolutely. And just kind of doing it all. Uh, yeah, I have another question. Okay, so from Reza, assuming that you do have the floor plan in advance, but what happens when you get to the set and you rehearse with the actors and they have a different idea of the blocking of how the scene will go?
Or you might have a different idea of the blocking of how the scene will go, right? That cool. Then
Right.
that's what you do.
Yeah, just kind of
Yeah,
change that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, the only reason that, and I'll do the floor plan for every single scene, um, and the only reason for that, and every single one might change,
Right.
right? But there is going to come a time where you you don't want to go to set and not have a plan, right?
Yeah.
That's the worst thing, right? Everybody's waiting around as you trying to figure it out, and you're like, no, that doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that doesn't work. No,
Yeah.
man, that doesn't work. No, that doesn't work, right? So
Yeah. You're wasting so much
that
time and money, time and money, time and money.
time and money, and that is a quick way. I mean, if you're, it's bad if it's on your own project. It's awful if it's on like a television project. It's that's a quick way to not get invited back, and that's a quick way to get every single actor really pissed off at you and start yelling at you, basically, right?
Right.
Because, but if you come in and you have a plan, it's like, okay, I want you to start here, I want you to start here, boom, we're going to go over here, we're going to do this and do that. If they're like, I wouldn't really do that. Okay, cool, what would you do? Now it's on them.
Right.
Okay, and then they're like, okay, I would do this, I would do that, I would do this. Okay, how's that feel for you? That felt good. Okay, cool, let's go. Or if it's like, if you don't like it, you have to say you don't like it, right?
Uh-huh.
But you have to say, in my opinion, everything that you say you don't like, it has to be for a story reason.
Yep. You're right. Just put it right back on the story. You're absolutely right. So it's not a personal thing. It's like the story. This is clear for the story. And I love that whole thing that you're kind of yes-anding the actors. Like the actors will go, I want to do this. You go, yeah, great. Yes-anding. Yeah, let's try it. Let's give it a go. So that's always like so good. Yeah. Amazing. So so terrific. So with the so we have all these budding people that are out there, wanting to direct things. And what would you say to kind of young directors that are coming out of this pandemic and coming out into the world and wanting to direct things? Do you have any sage advice to them?
I believe so. I had a couple of PAs on the Rookie that I would talk to a lot. They were great, and Jack was one of them. And I told Jack, and Jack actually ended up making a short film. right? And I said, just make stuff. He wanted to be a director. I was like, okay, cool. Make a film. So your goal, our goal, we had a goal for Jack. By the end of this, by the time I leave, you will have shot a short film, and then 2 months later you will have edited it and you'll have a completed short film. So, and he did it with his iPhone, right? And because at first he was like, I have no money, I have no this, I have no that. I'm like, if you have one of these,
Right.
you have no excuse, right? So you can always make something. You might not be able to make, your dream project, who cares? But make something and keep making something, right? So in my opinion, there's no excuse to not constantly be making something, especially if you're if you're first starting out, because you can always churn out work.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Totally, just being your self advocate, just get out and just do it. Yeah, making and creating. Wow. Well, that was I'm a little over actually my time. We went over a little bit. I just want to thank you so much for your conversation today, and I want to thank everyone for all of their incredible questions. And if I want to thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, all right, take care. All right, we'll see you later. Thank you, everybody.